I've killed men, 7 men. I'm 27 years old. I've killed 7 men.
I'm telling you what I saw. I saw murder up on that yard, and I didn't appreciate it.
These guys are crazy. Or some of them are nice, too.
If you're doing something wrong, you better do it cool and don't get caught, because if you come here, you're going to see the real life here.
Hi, Mom. Merry Christmas, Mom. Don't worry about your kid. He's all right.
Don't nobody know how it is in here, you know. Otherwise, you can talk to them all day and never understand, you know. But I understand. I know everything. I've been to all the maximum security holes. I've been to AC, 4A. I've been to B section. I've been every maximum security hole they've been. I've been there. And you know what? I haven't seen it change yet in prison. All I've seen it get worse and worse and worse. I watch it every day.
Frankhauser, Lang, Smith, Lowell, let's go.
First day I walked in here, I thought somebody had made a mistake. I didn't think it was a prison. The way the personalities were and the attitudes were, I said, where am I? 2 people got killed here the first week I was here. I did 7 years flat in New York, in Attica, and no one got killed, guard or inmate. There wasn't any stickings. God knows how many people have been killed or stuck since I've been here. I've been here going on 6 years now.
San Quentin is just a little community unto itself. It's probably not unlike the military in some respects. It's probably not unlike boot camp. It's an all-male world. It's a lot rougher. The language is a lot rougher. The values are a little bit different. The absence of women tends to make it so. I think women often have a softening influence, and that influence here is missing.
I'll be 27 years old this month, and lost everybody. Mom's died when I was in prison last time. My father more or less disowned me this time around. Written my brother's letters and never received any answers, and it's just me and him in the family, and it kind of hurts, you know. If I figured if I was right there, maybe I could convince him to come see me.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe... You're
being pretty isolated from the outside world, but you have a wife, though, that writes you twice a month, huh?
Yeah. I'm not trying to feel sorry for myself. I can see where they're coming from. You know, I've been a pretty big disappointment. The only one in our family that's ever been in trouble, and you know, I'm in and out of jail. And they told me last time when I got out, you know, if I ever fell again, this is what I could expect, you know. But you always tell yourself, nah, you know, they won't do that. But
so you take responsibility for being here. I mean, you feel like you were the one that messed up, and it wasn't anything to do with the friends you were with or the society that you live in. It was just pretty much your own doing.
My own weakness, yeah. I'm an alcoholic, you know, and that's basically my problem. Almost 95% of my problem is just behind alcohol.
Yeah.
You know, I tried to receive help. I was living in Sunnyvale. I was working in Palo Alto and living in Sunnyvale, and I tried to receive help through the VA. They got an inpatient clinic there for veterans, you know, for alcoholics. I tried to receive help through them, you know, and I just didn't get together in time.
Cut.
You told me a little while ago that you've been here for 27 years.
Yeah, 27.
You said that, you know, you were a hitman, and when you were arrested when you were 19. What led you to that point in your life? Where did you grow up, and where did you come from?
East Los Angeles. I got 9 brothers and 5 sisters. And I was tired of living out of a garbage can. You know, to survive, I had to eat out of a garbage can, and I used to see kids better dressed than I am, and I said, well, that's for me. So I joined the East Los Angeles gang, and started pushing dope at 11. I was a drug addict at 12. By the time I was 15, I joined an organization called Tumbareros out of Tijuana, gun running
We used to steal guns from National Guard armories, any place we could get them, burglarize them, pawn shops, and sell them. But then I got tired of getting picked up and pushed around by the police, so that's when I became a revolutionary. I blew up police stations just to be blowing them up, and just for fun of them, just to get back at them, because I had too much hate in me.
Bring it. Up, John.
The situation here is pretty hopeless. The smallest things that a free person can give is highly appreciated. For that reason, the teachers are respected and maybe even loved a little bit. But during the lockdown, I might find that I'm giving some man a copy of a novel that I pick up free outside a bookstore that throws it out. And for that, I'm a good guy on the blocks. I felt safer walking through East Block with so-called rapists and all kinds of criminals than I feel in lucky markets, you know, where I don't know who I'm dealing with. But generally speaking, convicts, I find, give you a chance. They give you a chance to be a human being. If you behave humanly, you're pretty much in. If you treat a person viciously, you can get away with it here because the men are in chains.
What were you doing before you became a guard?
I was a logger. What? A logger in Idaho.
What made you decide to become a guard?
Oh, I've wanted to get in law enforcement, and my father works up at Susanville Penitentiary up there, and through the steps, you know, like father, like son. Well, I certainly hate to be in this type of an atmosphere, caged up like that, you know, this, with those cells are only 4.5 by 8. There's not much room, and these guys, majority of them are locked down all day long, you know. That's all day, just to come out for chow, once in a while for canteen.
I got life. I'm eligible for parole in 1980. Yeah, I don't look to go nowhere till about 82, 83.
That seems like a long time. Huh?
Yeah, well, it's a long time if you look at it. Personally, my personal opinions, I don't think that a lot of time rehabilitate nobody or do nothing for nobody. I think if you send a person to a madhouse like this here, it ain't gonna do nothing but make him worse in the long run. I kind of agree with, I forgot this guy's name, but he was trying to introduce a bill for no crime to carry over 5 years. You look at it, if a man is going to rehabilitate or repent or change his ways, it definitely don't take no 13 or 14 years to do it. Don't do nothing but embitter him, make him bitter after that length of time, and especially in a madhouse like this. I ain't rehabilitated or nothing, you know. I'm just here. Yeah. You know, it's just a fact. Ain't no programs. Ain't you know, it's nothing. Man, you locked in a cell 22 hours. What can you do but get bitter? If you did have a strong enough desire to do something constructive for yourself and to learn something, you would you locked up. So all that desire is just like pent-up tension. It's washed away at the proper time, you know, and that's that. You right back where you started. So personally, I think that anytime they take a man, regardless of his age, and they put him in prison for 12, 13, 14 years, I don't care if he killed the president, and they put him in prison for that length of time, they might as well either execute him or send him to a trade school or whatever. You know, whatever the court thinks would benefit the society and the individual. But anytime you lock up a man for 10 or 12 years, in one of these madhouses, then you really ain't doing nothing but adding to the problem.
This is my world. I grew up in it. I know it inside out. I know what to expect. It's my frame of reference. You've lived on the streets. When you walk out of your house in the morning, you make automatic decisions that you don't think about, whether you're going to go on a bus or what you're going to do as far as change goes, and even the minor purchases and things that you make through the day, and you're constantly facing people that wear different types of clothing, that have different points of view. You live in a very competitive manner in some ways, in the fact that you're always ready to defend your own view, and you don't even think about these things. In here, when I walk across the yard among 2,500 men, I see nothing but people in blue. In general, I know where their heads are at. I know pretty much what their stories are going to be after I talk to them for 3 or 4 minutes. And it's a life that I'm as at home with as you are with your lives on the streets. For me out there, it's a constant pressure to at least give the appearance of conforming. And I don't understand the streets. I got physically ill the first time I faced a crowd after I come off the row. I couldn't handle it. There was too many different people, too many different views.
Gee, has prison done this to you?
Yeah, sure.
Or is it yourself? Or
no, it's I know a lot of guys that are they won't talk about it that much, but they don't want to hit the streets. You know, I mean, they've never made it on the streets. They don't know how to make it on the streets. They go out for a vacation, but they know when they go out they're coming back. You know, this is home to them. You know, they're institutionalized. The state has taken all the initiative away from them as far as running their own lives and knowing how to run their own lives. In here you sit back and major decisions are made for you. You don't make your own major decisions in here. You have a rent provided for you, you have a home provided for you, you have your food provided for you, medical care, everything's provided, you know, and the only thing that they ask of you is to do what they want you to do, to conform, you know. And after you've been conforming for 20, 25 years, it gets to be pretty easy to do, you know. When I was young, I rebelled. I spent most of my time in the hole because I didn't go along with the rules, you know, and I fought the system. But now I ride along with it, and I find it rather easy to ride because I'm in the honor block. You know, I have my own possessions, not a whole lot, but they're not insignificant either. You know, for me, there's much more than I ever had before in my life.
Well, my name is Jim Smith. I'm one of the 2 production managers of Correctional Industries. The industry program is in 9 of the 12 prisons we have in the state of California. And we do about $10 to $12 million a year production. And
how much does San Quentin do?
The San Quentin total amounts to between $1.5 million and $2 million a year. In our factories, we start the men off at 5 cents an hour. They go up to 25 cents an hour, but the average runs from 18 to 20 cents an hour. We have 3 industries at San Quentin: a furniture factory, a clothing factory, and a detergent plant. Our best training seems to be for employment outside in our furniture woodworking plant, and men who stay with us a good length of time become very proficient at the jobs and are very easily placed on jobs outside.
This is a type of judge's chair. This type of chair sells for $250.
And they use them for judges in the courts?
Yes, this is out of like a leatherette, and they also make it out of cloth. The chairs, the bases on the right are out of cloth.
Do they stick any pins in the bottom of them for the judges?
We haven't had any judges complain yet.
With the 5 cents an hour that they get, they've got to buy things that you and I would consider absolute necessities, such as toothpaste, writing paper, you name it, anything. He's got to pay for this out of this pathetic wage that he gets of, say, 5 cents an hour. Meanwhile, the things that he has produced are used, you see, by the state. There's very few college students, state college students, who realize as they sit at their college desk that that desk was made by prison slave labor. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of the economy of prison. That's why I subtitled my book, The Prison Business, because there's an enormous flow of money, but the money flows in one direction, and that's up to the top. It rises to the top, and it goes to the bureaucracy. And precious, precious little of it filters down to the convict who's sort of crushed beneath this great ton of gold.
And see, I've been employable in this trade here, I guess, for about 14 months now. I feel kind of bad about that, you know.
You got a 3-year date after doing 10 years.
Right.
When did you get that 3-year date?
March of this year. To me, you know, you're just wasting state money.
Yeah, well, and I suppose one of the reasons you did this was to get a good record so you'd get a good an early date when you went before the board.
Well, one of the reasons I did it primarily in the beginning was because the board demanded, this is what they demanded, that I become employable in this trade and that I would be released once having done that. I did what they asked, and since having done what they asked, they still give me a date of this kind. You know, I call it a brand new sentence, a brand new parole. It's like doing a double parole in order to get to the streets in order to do a parole, you see.
Wow.
It's pretty rough, you know.
Yeah.
But the trade itself, I've become to like this. And I think that once I get to the streets, I'm going to stick with it.
Yeah. Do you get paid for doing this here in prison?
No.
I want you to get a nice photograph of that. He tried to put money in my head. And him too. Yeah, Dave. I would say, man,
Getting ready for lockdown.
you gotta just take it and put this.
Can we show them how we react? Can we show them how we react now?
Yeah, sure.
Oh man, I'm not fucking down.
Get in there.
You guys spit.
Okay, in the adjustment center, many of you probably already heard, Gibson had a piece, refused to lock up, personnel went in after him, flak vest, etc. Howard was hit twice in the arm, minor injury. Officer Howard, that's correct. Sergeant Morera got a scrape on one of his hands. Officer Sanders got a slight graze on the one of his hands with a knife. No one serious injury.
That's Gibson.
That's Gibson. Gibson was then taken to the hospital, placed in the psych ward where he is now. The psychs feel that perhaps he was mentally deranged at the time of his acting out behavior. That then, as I see it, would preclude the possibility of DA prosecution. Anyone have any questions, comments, criticisms? Shut up. Let's go.
Are you?
You're not leaving yet, are you? You're not leaving yet, are you?
There are many different reasons why people commit crimes and why persons may be violent. Most persons that are violent are not violent most of the time. They're only violent for short periods of time. And most persons that commit crime, that's only one aspect of their lives. And many different reasons, ranging from lack of education, lack of opportunity to do something else, lack of practice in doing something, lack of proper job skills and work habits. Many prisoners come from families that did not encourage things such as education and productive work. And none of that they associated with delinquent peer groups where the value systems were not those that are held by general society.
Man, these bulls, they shot me. This dude, he didn't even fire no warning shot, you know, and he just shot me out in the yard, and you see the bullet come out about an inch under my heart. It's supposed to shoot you just to maim you, you know? Dude was trying to kill me, you know? They've been shooting people like that a lot lately, though, because they just shot a black dude in B section And they shot him in the stomach too, you know, and they're supposed to shoot you in the leg or something, you know. But they didn't do that. Right, and they shot another white dude's eye out down there too with a shotgun, you know. That's what they be doing a lot lately, you know. They said it's supposed to be a deterrent to violence, but it ain't.
There's a few bulls in here that footed Foxy, but there are other bulls in here just like the other policemen in the streets. Nothing. They're incapable of dealing with men. They don't know how. I saw a murder up there on the yard, in front of a bull. Thank God I'm before this camera to say this. On the May the 16th, Louis Brown got killed. I saw it. My name is Benjamin Gerald Brown, B8660. I saw a man walk up behind another man with a bull standing up on the tower with a gun at parade rest and watch this man and take his life. I've been in the system 20 years. I'm a personnel barber. I lost my respect for every bull in the joint. That's right. I did. I've seen it. I would take a razor and work on their neck. I've never nicked a man in the joint. And I saw that.
Hey, man, check this book out, man. This is home right here. This is home.
You're home away from home.
Right, home away from home. I was railroaded on 3 murders in Oakland. You probably are familiar with my case.
What is it?
You from the Bay Area?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you familiar with the Piedmont Slim, the son and the mother? The Piedmont, they was from Piedmont?
Yeah.
That and then some call-out man. But I was railroaded on all 3 of them. Yeah. I got life without.
San Quentin is a reputation place, like, you know, and everybody here has to more or less have a reputation, you know, in order to survive here. You know, like a guy that usually come in and try and does his own number, it's kind of hard, you know, and that's where your gang type of things come off.
There's a different value system here in the prison, whereby it's okay to kill someone under certain situations, such as if that person has killed a friend of yours or a member of your gang, you're supposed to retaliate by killing them. Or if that person owes you a debt, it may even be for just a few packs of cigarettes, it's okay with the inmate peer group to kill that person.
People aren't indiscriminately running around in here with knives sticking people for no reason at all, any more than they're dropping bombs in Vietnam or any place else. Things are done for certain reasons. And that's the same in prison. You got people in here that have disagreements and everything else. They have debts the same as anybody else. They have emotional problems the same as anybody else. And they have one way of taking care of them.
Guys, put it back in.
Right, closer and everything.
Four post back, Chef. We just had one hit on the lower yard.
Maybe a piece of quarter or something.
Fred, get the sticks here. Hey, give us that. All right.
Here's some of you.
Back, Jack, anyone? No, we just had a couple hit on the lower yard, 2 on the ground. 2 hit, we got 1 assailant, I think. All right. It's going nuts.
We know the mafia, you know, was involved. You know, we know the mafia initiated the action. You know, but
You mean the Mexican?
the Mexican mafia, yeah. They and the blacks have been at odds because of a stabbing that happened last week. You see, the different leaders have been talking, trying to kind of quiet it down. You know, supposedly, you know. So evidently, the Mexican mafia decided that they were going to get down first. You know.
Just get pushed so much just at one time, it blows everybody's bomb. They just don't care about the guns, don't care about nothing, just blow it.
There was a Pearl Harbor type attack on black inmates by some Chicano inmates, and the only way we're going to keep peace among them is just not allow them the opportunity to get at one another. At this very moment, everything is at a standstill. We have every inmate locked up with the exception of a handful who are out performing necessary functions like hospital workers, food preparation and such.
Well, all it's doing is delaying it, really, because, you know, If these guys are gonna get down, they're gonna get down.
That's the dilemma, you know, because we have to do something, you know. Right now, this whole institution is like a powder keg, you know. Everyone's so quiet, and no one's really raising any hell. Everyone's just scared, you know.
Had I been out there, I definitely would have been afraid. Because those officers are up there, and they're up there for a reason. They're not up there with those guns just to look pretty. They're up there to protect me. People are building this up into a big thing, like it's a great big race war. There's only certain people involved. It's not the general population. The general population are in their cells hoping they could get out.
Like you stated, you know, there's just a few that are causing the trouble. But how can you pick out those few, separate them from the mass, and let the mass go about doing what they want to do?
Only a small percentage of the inmates really espouse this different value system actively, maybe 10-15% of the population. The rest of the population are somewhat terrorized by the small percent at this time. They're afraid to speak up against it. They're afraid to try to control these inmates. The only way they could control them probably would be to become violent themselves, and they wish not to do that. So that the 10 or 15% that are violent, that do belong to these gangs, are able to pretty much run the prison.
Yeah, well, you know, it could have been me too. You know, I could have been in the same position. Just so happened that I happened to be in the hospital on a ducket when that happened. But I seen the guys. I knew one of them, you know, that died.
And baby, when you see what this place is like, you can't see what it's like by having people talk to you or nothing. You have to live here. You have to have those doors racked in the morning and walk out hoping that you're going to make it through that day. Because everyone here lives in fear.
There's nothing really you can do, you know, really to alleviate the fear that everyone had, you know, of what response, you know, the blacks are going to have, you know. That's, you know, because, you know, two of them are dead, you know.
No, I don't think it's going to explode, and I'll tell you why I don't think it's going to explode. I think you've got more level heads in here than they're given credit for. Believe me, you got more guys in here that realize today that it doesn't pay to get pushed off into these games and everything else. And I think there's a lot of guys in here who want to get out of prison. Unfortunately, society doesn't understand a prisoner because they're not allowed in here the way they should be, and they're afraid of the prisoner. All the publicity we get is bad. It's all violent. People are scared to death in the streets of violence. What do they want? Somebody like myself coming out that has a violent background, or they're told about me I'm violent. They want me as a neighbor? No. Keep me in San Quentin, cause more problems.
Obviously, you don't run prisons by force. Now, we do have guns and gas and those kind of things, but that's not even an answer to these violent attacks. Those happen right under the gun, knowing full well that they're going to be seen and they're going to be, you know, apprehended. But so force is not the answer.
The violence centers around a couple of things, one being narcotics, the traffic in drugs that's in the prison, the illicit traffic in drugs. Another being homosexual activities. Certain inmates are homosexual, of course, and they, from time to time, are fought over by the other inmates. Those are the two main causes. Another is just fight for territory. You know, want to be king of the mountain. Want to run the prison, run whatever, you know, racket there is to run.
This is only used when the officer doesn't come in, because we don't have time otherwise. All right, Gino, pull it up.
Opened my eyes up when I came in here that things could be so different inside here, and you wouldn't know anything about it if you were still out in the streets. And I thought I had really gotten around before I came in, and I knew what was going around. But after I got in here the first week and saw what it's like a totally different world in here. People.
Could you describe some of the things that you learned?
Well, one thing I learned that sometimes is that life in here is kind of cheap. People could sit there and hurt somebody for just the smallest of reasons. They don't really care about it. I've seen guys get themselves killed in here for a box of cigarettes, and it just seemed kind of funny that this would be happening. I never saw that much out in the streets, and it was a shock. And then another thing was the type of people that were in here that I never knew existed.
Why do you think life's so cheap in San Quentin?
Well, just the idea from what I could see that, I don't know, a man comes in here and, you know, he's made a mistake, he wants to do his time, but I don't know, there's groups in here that, you know, they want to add to their groups, and they see the guy comes in, a brand new guy, and they want to get him into the group. And he may not want him in the group, but they make their own choices on it, and the guy's got to go along with him, otherwise he's got a hard time to do. So he gets into it, and for some reason or another, you know, it could be drugs, it could be power play, homosexuals, or anything like this. You know, they got to make sure that somebody doesn't go against what they believe in, and you know, somebody's got to get hurt for it. And it's for things like that that, you know, they just go out and either knife somebody or club them. That's where I get the idea that the thing is, you know, cheap in here. I've seen too much of it in here already. That's only a small segment of it. There's other guys in here that, you know, can come in and do their time, and that's all they want to do is do the time and get out. And I say more power to them, because they got a really hard job in front of them. You know, staying clean in here, where, you know, they got all the other problems in here magnified, and they can do their time and get out and not come back. You know, that guy's really got a lot on the ball. You know, I'd see more of that. But there is some people in here that just, you know, they seem to like it in here. They don't want to leave. I don't know if it's the 3 meals that they get each day, or, you know, the bed and the roof over their heads that keeps them in here and away from the problems on the street, or what. But, you know, there's a few of them that do like it. I wish there wasn't. You know, get them out and take off, you know, instead of come back in this place. It's a nice place to visit, but you don't want to live here.
Sooner or later, brothers, we get burned and we don't know who to turn to. But I thank God that I turned to Christ, because Christ, in Him you find the answer. And I can recall the time that I was using out in the streets, and I came home one day to my house, and my family was there. I hated my kids, I hated my wife. I told my wife, you know something, you could go with all the rest of the brothers, but me, man, I want to die an addict. My wife looked at me and told me, you know, Joe, one of these days, God's going to change your life. One of these days, God's going to bring you back where you belong. God's going to change your life. God's going to make you a new man. I'm praying for you, Joe. I want God to change your life.
Took me off the death row, and I'm proud to stand here and tell everybody, thank God. Right now, living in Jesus Christ here in San Quentin, I feel better than I did when I was on the street living in sin. Amen. And that's a big step. So I want all you brothers to pray for me.
I was in the county jail, and it was my 7th time back to the state, coming back to the state facilities, and I finally came to the conclusion that I couldn't make it, that there was definitely something wrong, and I started cursing the Lord. If you're such a merciful God, why haven't you helped me? And I started reading His Word, and for the first time, His Word was speaking directly to me. It wasn't talking about the people of Jerusalem. It was talking about Ray. And I was in bondage, and He was drawing me out of bondage. And hallelujah.
Nathan Ellis. I have a very short speech, and it's no speech at all. My address is P.O. Box 28124, Tamale, California. Any young lady out there between the ages of 20 and 30, how old are you?
I'm older than that.
35, makes me no difference. 20 and 35, that address is Nathan Ellis, Nathan. That's Nathan Ellis, Ellis. Address P.O. Box 28124, Tamale, California.
What you're saying is that you really need to be able to reach some people on the outside. Is that it?
It's like this. I'm here for rehabilitation. if I have to be rehabilitated, which is, I believe personally, a man can only rehabilitate himself from within. Now, if I rely on San Quentin, I'll always be coming back using up the taxpayers' money. So I ask for some help here.
It's a very good feeling here. What do you all attribute it to if this is such a snake pit?
Well, I'm still nervous. I'm afraid of them guns.
Well, I'm afraid of them too.
Do you realize that if something jumped off right now, they'd shoot right in the middle of here? You in it? Do you know that?
Yeah.
And that don't make you nervous?
Well, that makes me a little bit nervous, but I mean, everybody's very friendly.
Right? Just when you think about it.
Nectine is not the proper name of the drug. It's there's a word for it that has something like 24 or 25 letters, but for short they call it a nectine. And what you do is the officers in the green shirts come in and they put you in restraints, handcuffs, and they put shackles on your feet where you can't kick. And the doctor comes in and he sits down with a little folding chair, a little metal folding chair. And he says, well, now, Mr. Smith, you burnt your mattress last night. Why did you do that? Well, it so happened I burnt my mattress because I had nothing else to do. I had no books of any kind whatsoever. I had no type of, nothing to keep my mind or anything else occupied except staring and looking at the ceiling. So I decided to do something, cause a little excitement, and I burned my mattress. So he says, now we don't want you to do that again, Mr. Smith, so we're going to try and give you a little therapeutic drug that will help you. It's called a nectine. And I want you to listen to me very carefully when I administer it. Naturally, I have no choice in the matter. I'm chained and restrained and have 2 or 3 people sitting on my arms and legs. I can't do a damn thing about it. So he pulls out a hypodermic, swabs my arm, injects the nectine intravenously instead of intramuscularly. It goes straight to the vein. Immediately upon injection, your body goes into a convulsive, just spasmic, say 4 to 5 seconds, a spasmic attack. And then the body's immobilized. It's a feeling of being suffocated with pillows on your face and at the same time of having an enormous amount of weight on your chest where that you can't breathe. It's a feeling of total paralysis of your hands, your arms, your legs, your toes. You can't move anything. You can move your eyes slightly, but only slightly. I mean, it's very hard just to move them a fraction of an inch either way. It totally immobilizes the body. It's like a catatonic type of state. And, but of course it's a limited state. But your thing is this, the doctor understands what he's doing to you. He knows that you're not going to die. You don't know that. You may think, as most of us thought, as I personally thought, that he put too much in there, that he'd kill me accidentally. I thought perhaps maybe the sadistic son of a bitch had did it on purpose. I didn't know what he was doing, but I knew that I was dying. I had absolutely no doubt in my mind that I was going to die. And he said, now you're not going to do that again, are you, Roger Dale? And naturally you cannot talk back. In order to talk, you must be able to get air, and you can't get air in the sense of the word that you can breathe like we're breathing now. You're living on the oxygen that's in your lungs and the oxygen that flows through your lungs and the pores of your body, but it's just enough to sustain the blood flow to the brain such that you don't lose consciousness, but that you feel the total effect of a death sense. And I've been close to death many times, and you can believe me that that is perhaps the closest feeling to death that I've ever experienced in my life. And he consistently, just consistently drives into your head, you're not going to do it again, are you? Now, you wouldn't want this to happen to you again, would you? As you would talk to a child, a 6-year-old, 8-year-old child. And the effect of the nectine itself wears off in about 3 minutes, where that you get partial movement. Well, during that partial movement, they remove your restraints and they get out of that cell. Because after 5 or 10 more minutes, you're going to be able to have full movement of the body. And believe you me, if they were in the cell at that time, you would gladly kill every single one of them and you wouldn't think nothing about it. You'd think nothing whatsoever about it. But anyway, they did this to me the first time, like I say, for burning the mattress. The second time for assaulting a guard named Daryl Grady, a guard that worked S3. I slugged him during the shower because he pushed me into the shower, telling me, all right, get in there, and he pushed me, and I turned around and slugged him. As a result, 10 minutes, 15 minutes later, I had a nectine stuck to me again. Then they brought out a new therapeutic program called carbon dioxide treatment, which is a mask that they put on your face, and they make you breathe the gas that's in there. I'm not exactly sure what the elements or components of the gas is. I never went into it that far. But it's the same thing. It's suffocation, and my understanding of a nectine and the gas treatment that they administered was simply for traumatic effect, to create trauma in your head where that you'll refrain from doing something that they consider against the rules, something that they consider a violation of the rules. But the trauma is so severe that instead of you saying, well, I'm not going to do that again, yes, you say that. I'm not going to burn that mattress again, or I'm not going to break that wall again. But what you do plot, you say, now how can I get a hold of something where I can kill one of these son of a bitches? This is what you start plotting. So you forget the petty minor stuff, the get rid of the aggressiveness, the pent-up hostilities by burning and making noise and breaking things. You do it because you are afraid of the nectine, you are afraid of the gas treatment. Anybody says they aren't, they're a goddamn liar. But you start planning on how you can assault severely, preferably one of the people that administered this to you. But in actuality, anybody that's in a position of authority, that has authority directly over you, that you can retaliate against and say, now, son of a bitch, if you do this to me again, I'm going to get another one of you people. This is how your mind works. This is how my mind worked. This is how many of the men that I lived with on S3, this is how their minds worked.
I guess I got into it through the service. I was in the Navy and put 5 years in the Navy in brigs and security work. And then when I came out, I went into work as a private investigator. Stayed with that for about 7 years for the Atomic Energy Commission. And then I came here from there.
So the barber is
You like it, John?
I like it real well. Real well.
What's good about it? What is it you like?
I guess what I like about it is it's not monotonous. There's something different every day. I've never had the same kind of a day twice. I don't believe I've ever had a day that I've worked for the department that I disliked. I like my job real well. I like the men I work with, both the convicts and the officers.
You get along pretty well with the inmates?
Pretty well. There's a feeling on both sides. I guess when I first came here, it was different. But after you get a little time, you get used to different things. And you get along with everybody.
What kind of things are difficult to get used to?
For a new man, I guess realizing that everybody's an individual. You know, you first when you come in here, you think, well, convict's a convict. And pretty soon, you know, it's not that way anymore. The same way as people on the street think as a policeman, you know. Everybody's a cop, you know, that wears a uniform, but that's not it. Everyone's different. I think that probably is the hardest thing to get used to. And once you get used to that, it's not that hard of a place to work. A lot of people think it is, but it's not.
This seems to be a pretty conservative place. Is it real hard for a homosexual to live a normal life here?
No, it's much better. I've been in the easy joints, in the country clubs, and I like it much better here. I get better treatment from the staff. They don't hassle me. The other convicts don't hassle me. I don't have any trouble with people. I have a cellie right now. I've had a cellie ever since I've been here. They keep throwing people in my cell. But now I get to pick them. At first it was every other day I got a new cellie. But that's cool anyway. But nobody bugs me. I just do what I want to do. And if these people don't like it, that's their problem. I figure if they don't like me, they don't need to talk to me. And just if they don't like it, just let them go on and do what they're going to do. I'm going to do what I'm going to do anyway. And I'm not going to run and hide like the rest of them do. There's very few out in the open homosexuals here. But there are a whole bunch of them that are hiding. There's a whole lot of them running around here.
Where are they hiding?
They think nobody knows about them, but I know. I see them every day.
And how old are you, John?
28.
You're 28?
Yeah.
And how long have you been in trouble with the law?
Since about 65, I'd say.
65?
Yeah.
And you're a graduate? High school graduate?
No, hardly any education at all.
When was the last time you went to school?
Well, I'm in school right now in study courses. That sort of.
Completing your high school education?
Yeah, I'm working on that right now.
How far did you go to school when you were out?
Oh, the 10th grade.
10th grade?
Yeah.
And what prevented you from continuing your education?
I got in a fight with the dean of boys at high school. Over being drunk, and he wanted to take me home, and I didn't want to go home.
Why didn't you want to go home?
Well, I was drunk, and you know how a father and a son don't get along too good.
How's that, John?
What now?
How's that? How does not a father and son get along?
Well, he wouldn't understood me and my actions, that day. I just didn't want to face him drunk, is what it was, So I just fired on the dean of boys,
It was much easier to fire on the dean of boys
than my father, yeah.
And you got expelled from school at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened to you then?
I went to work, and then all of a sudden I just started running wild, and that was it,
Started robbing?
No, this is the first time I've been robbing, and the last, Yeah.
Did they lock you in the hall, in juvenile hall, at the time, or they just suspend you from school?
No, they just suspended me, I was just suspended.
This the first time you've been locked up?
No, it's my second time I've been locked up.
What was your first time for?
Burglary. Yeah.
Do you have any contacts with the outside world?
I get visits maybe every 3 weeks, maybe once a month. I don't really like them, so close together, because you run out of things to talk about.
Hey, there's dudes in here that can't even relate to their own mother when they go out to visit them in that visiting room out there. Hey, and it's a heavy scene, man, seeing a guy sitting there at the table with a big smile on his face, holding his mother's hand, and don't even know how to talk to her, because the only thing he knows is San Quentin, And he says, "Mom, how's it going? How's Dad? How's Sis? How's my brother? And that's it. That's as far as it goes. What can they say? Oh, they're doing fine. Or so-and-so's sick in the hospital. Then he feels bad. He's on a bigger bummer than whenever he went out there.
You gotta have something to look forward to. If not, you'll always be lost.
Amy needs somebody to take care of her, too.
Sure does. Amy's with Mom right now?
Yeah. That's all. I've never left her with anybody else. I won't. I just, there's too many crazy people.
It's unpredictable out there. You don't want to get those babysitters, or the only ones you want to get that takes care of your kid is someone you really know. Mom's, I guess, the best person you can trust with your kids.
Dolly.
Dolly.
She calls her Dolly.
Oh, yeah.
She's a doll. She sure is smart.
How old is she now?
17 months yesterday.
Is she walking?
She's been walking since she was 10 months old. She's had 3 teeth since she was 4.5 months. Never been sick. She's healthy.
I thought Willie Brown, I heard him, looking at him on TV, and I heard him, talking, I was tripping on, how he handled the situation. He turned it into a comical thing at the end,
I gotta watch the news. It depresses me.
Well, if I don't watch the news, I get out there and die shot. News is, that's the only forms of righteous, seeing the change. Like, I guess Channel 9 is about the only one that I can see that covers Palo Alto. The major news branches like CBS and KRN and KTVU, they very seldom get down,
I've been here at San Quentin now for 6 months.
And what are you here for?
I'm here for what is called multiple murder, 2 murders. I'm also here for robbery, and I have 3 special circumstances allegations. One which is robbery murder, the other one which is supposed killing of a witness, and the third is for the 2 or more is mass murder. Each one of these separate special circumstances merit the death penalty. My day usually begins, about, I think it's around 8:30 is when the breakfast wagons come around. Now the cell I'm in is 5 foot by 8 foot. It's about 7 foot tall. It has a naked light bulb and chain fixture in it. It has a sink and commode and 2 shelves, 2 steel shelves on the back of the cell. And this is it, and there's a steel bunk with mattress. And at about 8:30 in the morning, the officers, when they change shifts at 8 o'clock, the second watch comes on at 8. That's when they bring the food carts around. Now, the food carts are an electric contraption, somewhat similar to those used in a hospital. Well, the food, when it arrives, it comes up at 8. It isn't usually served till about 8:45. So it's usually ice cold by the time you get it. Example, today breakfast consisted of, creamed beef, 5 slices of bread, 1 small cube of butter, grits, stewed prunes, 2 pieces of toast, 7 slices of bread total, 1 6-ounce glass of milk, and 10 ounces of coffee. This is the breakfast, all of which I have to say was cold. After breakfast this morning was at about a half an hour after breakfast, they bring around razors, which is a lockable type razor. It's a double-edged Gillette, which they bring around so shaving and all this. At the same time, they bring your lunch around, half an hour to 45 minutes after you've finished your breakfast. Lunch today consists of 2 sandwiches and an orange, which to a peanut butter sandwich and a pimento loaf sandwich. And that's that.
Do you have to eat that then, or can you just say, I've already had my breakfast, I'd like to keep this food in my cell?
You can keep food in your cell.
Yeah.
But that's unwise because of the cockroaches. Norseg, especially in summer, is infested with cockroaches and I think they're water bugs, silverfish. Just infested with them. They're constantly spraying every other day to get rid of the cockroaches. Also in your cell you have 3 naked wires which extend out of the wall, out of the ventilator unit, which hooks up your earphones to the inside radio system, which is it's a master control system where radio stations are played at random. They give you a listing, either they have Chicano music at one time or popular jazz or whatever, and you just go by the hour. If you don't like what's on one station, you have an alternative station to turn to. And that's the extent of that. That's the extent of your recreation. Oh, Tony on the outside was a totally different person. Can
you tell us a little about it?
Well, I was born and raised in San Francisco. Lived in the Mission District of San Francisco, which is the middle income area. I was working at the time. I was just your normal working man. That was about it.
Have a family?
No, I wasn't married. I was still living with my parents. And just sort of Mr. Inconspicuous. I was just never. Well, I don't really know how to put it. I was never involved in any kind of crime. This is the first time I've ever been arrested. No prior juvenile record. So this is a completely brand new experience. And it's sort of ironic now when I look back, being that I was a member of the Republican Party on the outside, that I voted for the death penalty myself when it was on the ballot.
Heavy! Oh, don't smile, man. You blow the whole thing, man. Smiling up here like that, goddamn. Just spit some tobacco juice down there. Oh, man, sit down. Come on, chew on it, chew on it.
The man's name was Pierce, and he got pieces of a broken light bulb from a light fixture that was in the cell, just adjacent to the gas chamber, and slashed his throat with a piece of it and nicked his jugular vein. And as the blood was spurting out, of course, the doctor said that we're going to have to hurry up or he'll beat the state. Well, of course, you can't advance the time fixed by the court for an execution, but they did hurry the process of getting the man seated in the chair and strapped down, and then had the door dogged and everything ready to go. And in the process of hurriedly strapping him in, one of his arms worked loose and flailed around, and as the blood was spurting from his throat, it hit his hand and his wrist and splattered all over the interior of the chamber. And the witnesses outside were fainting faster than the officers who are normally posted there to catch the one or two people who might fall could even make a move. And of course, when they spun around to see why everybody was fainting, they nearly went down themselves.
My theory of what a convict should be thinking about while he's in the pen is what he's going to do when he get out to stay out of a situation like this. Because see, parole is like a rope. They'll give you enough rope and they'll tell you in a sense, either straighten your hand or we're gonna let you hang yourself. You see what I'm saying? This is what a man in the pen should be thinking about getting his mind together, his head together. See, these are very important factors in making it in society. And the only way that you are going to make it in societies is live by society's rules, which means, you know, have a job. You know, we can't go out there doing no robbing. We can't do no stealing. The law of averages is going to knock you down. You can have a 10-year run robbing, but the law of average is going to call you in.
Most of you are here because you were on parole and they sent you back here to dry you out of narcotic usage?
They give you 90 days. 90-day dry out.
What kind of narcotic treatment do you get here?
Nothing. No treatment at all. All I do is sit here and do time.
Like all we're doing is just getting older, you know, and that's about it, you know, that's all I think about. We're just doing all this time, you know, for a dry out, for a 90-day dry out. Well, you know, Like I already dried out in the county hospital. I mean, in the county jail. See, and so I come here and I do a 90-day dry out. What for? I'm already, you know, my system's already clean already. You know, so what's the use of doing a 90-day dry out when your system's already clean?
Actually, we're getting punished for being, you know, a narcotic addict. You know, when we should be given, you know, something like treatment, and you know, when you don't get no treatment, you might go back to the same road you came from because you feel that nobody really cares.
Treatment? Not one man here has seen a doctor. That's the aspects of narcotic treatments. Not one of them goes to a doctor when he first come here. For detoxification, they're supposed to send him to the general hospital in any city he comes from. The Delta Authority drags these men off the street. They may have homes, jobs, and things of that sort. When they come here, they lose their jobs, they lose their homes, they lose their respect for the community that they come out of. I'm a returnee. I got arrested 3 years on parole. Didn't have a traffic ticket. They put me on name when I first got out there. I'm a dope fiend. When I got out there for 3 years, the day I went to see my parole officer to get a discharge, he put me in jail. All my revocations emanate from the day I got to the parole, from the parole office. I went to the board that gave me a psych referral because I won't plead guilty. I had a lawyer, I had witnesses, I had evidences. I haven't had one of them to appear at the pre-revocation hearing. I haven't had one of them to appear at the revocation hearing. I was in jail 5 months out there in that stinking Bruno. Moved me from San Francisco to San Mateo County, kept me there for 5 months and brought me here. And when they do bring these kids in here, they treat them any way they want and threaten with, if you don't do what we say you do, they're non-suspended now. But if they get out of line in here, they'll suspend them and send them up to the big yard, up to that death trap up there. They bring these kids back here for what? He's a dope fiend. If he's a dope fiend, take him to the hospital, detox him. That's what we got methadone out there for. Don't bring him back in this penitentiary. He's not, oh shit, fuck all that. Well, I just wanted to say that, man, you know what I mean? Because, yes, they talk about, he was just like he was talking about plea bargaining. That's part of it. Look, man, I don't be jogging. I got it right here. See here? I'm in the courts. I stay in the courts. They call me a litigious litigant. That's right, a prolific writ writer. That's what I am. My name is, like I said, I walked out of Folsom for $1 bail. That's how qualified I am where the law is concerned, and I know what I'm talking about. And I got them now uptight. They don't know how to get me out. They tried to send me to CMCs, but I got a show cause out of Marin County. I stopped that. Now Mr. Justice Douglas of the United States Supreme Court just granted me a show cause. I'm trying to get them, pal. I'm 52 years old. I done lost all of mine, but I'm gonna try to make it possible so these kids' dreams can come true. I'm trying to make the Constitution become a reality. My kind. We're the only ones who does something. You know what I mean? Those characters out there, them lawyers. Man, look, you think this. Here's a fact. I got a James LaRue Grimm. That's my attorney. I go to court. I get a writ of habeas corpus granted from Robert F. Peckham, United States District Judge. He sends me back to the Superior Court to be resentenced after 8 years to get resentenced. I go to court. LaRue don't show up in court. I go before Martin Colvin over there, the most dissipated, the most no-lawing. I don't know how to refer to him as a judge. I asked him, could I speak on my own behalf? He told me to shut up. He sentenced me back to the penitentiary. LaRue didn't show. I got LaRue for my parole revocation hearing. They sent him notification that my parole was supposed to happen on April 15, 1974. He didn't show there. Now, those are the type of attorneys. I wrote an article in the paper, a letter to the editor, about this, about the judges and the lawyers here in this state. This is what we need. That's why this penitentiary is so full. You know what I mean? And those so-called radical lawyers, those left-wing lawyers, they don't want nothing but notoriety. You think one of them will help me? You think one of them help this man? Here's a man been in the joint, got 7-year jolt. He's got 6.5 in on it. A credit card beef. You ever heard of that? The federal government call it a thing. And the Delta Authority constantly, when the man go up to the board, denied, denied, denied. Let one of these kids get out of line and see what they do to him. They're sending back up to that trap up there, what we call on the front. The Delta Authority is above the law in this state. It answers to no one. I don't care if the California Supreme Court says something. They got purity, law, love, fury, all those cases on there. It tells the Delta Authority about its power, its administrative power. But it's above the legislature, it's above the executive, and it's above the judiciary. It has no one to answer to. It's all power, sir.
I come back to the institution that I'm a drug addict. I got an injury, a back injury. I was prescribed medication. I got affidavits from 3 different doctors. I carried this to the board with me, submitted it to the board. It was introduced and accepted as evidence. Board member told me, said, "Fool, I taken that medicine. I was supposed to have got the parole officer's permission to take it. This was prescribed by a legal doctor. Shot me down for 10 months.
It's antiquated, it's old, and it's tired. And we've gotten old, you might say we've gotten old and tired and short-sightedness too because of the place. And we're still dealing and thinking if we don't keep track and keep on top of it all the time, as if this place was, you know, if the year still was 1850 or 1860 or 1910. And we got to get out of that thought, but you look around the place.
Yeah.
And
it's conducive to that.
Yeah, right. And trying to get all the people in line with the 20th century sometime is a little hard to do.
People tend to much overemphasize the numbers of these violent murderers and so on that are in the prisons, because the wardens, if they're really leveling with you and talking off the record, will for the most part agree that only, say, 5% or 10% of the people now in prison really need to be there. So that means that if you took them at their word, you could already reduce the prison population by somewhere around 90%. But this isn't going to happen because prison is too lucrative and important a business to any state. So the question as to what to do with the real violent folks, well, presumably there would have to be some kind of restraint for a very, very tiny minority of people. Now, what kind of restraint is difficult to say, because if you say, well, perhaps they belong in a mental hospital, that's another form of cruelty and another form of very dangerous designation of people. Because once a person's tabbed as mentally off, you know, and goes down in the public records this way, then that label is going to last with them forever, probably. So that it'll affect everything. I think that there are no easy solutions to this one. I think the only thing to do, really, and the thing I'm interested in, is keeping one's eye on prisoners' rights, their legal constitutional rights. And in some states these are being extended and are being won, first of all by the outcry of the prisoners themselves, but secondly, and absolutely indispensable to winning these things, people like Ron and people like you making this film and bringing it all before the public, you know. And in other words, and also people in the legislature who have devoted great time to this. So that there are in some places beginning to be more recognition that the convict does have inalienable rights, just like anybody else.
Times are changing, you know, and people are going to change with them. But the San Quentin, yeah, it ain't going to change. It just ain't going to change. No way. The only way they're going to change San Quentin is when they flatten it to the ground. And that is a gospel truth. And you can say it over and over again, because walls in San Quentin were built in hate. They stand in hate. And there ain't a bit of love. And the world don't go around on hate alone. Because where there ain't no love, there ain't no understanding. And where there ain't no understanding, there ain't no compassion. And when there's no compassion, you got a prison. And that's San Quentin.
Yes, I believe, oh yes, I believe. Yes, I believe.